We're returning to our top story this morning, and that is this developing story. We have an update for you on the shooting. 3 people are now dead. That includes the suspect after a shooting in Toronto's popular Greektown neighborhood. Back with us is former Toronto homicide detective Mark Mendelson. Mark, good to have you here with us throughout the morning.
My pleasure.
Since you and I last spoke, we do have the sad update that another victim has passed away. That leaves 12 people in hospital, 2 civilians dead at the hand of this shooter, who is also deceased.
And now, I'm assuming now that he's been identified. They've already got his age, so I'm working on the assumption that they have his identification. So there's lots of things going on now. You've got the SIU trying to determine whether he died at the hands of the police or whether he died at his own hand. You have a double homicide investigation that now takes place in terms of what the motive was. So they'll be doing search warrants at his residence, maybe his workplace, computers, smartphones, talking to his neighbors, his friends, ex-spouses, ex-girlfriends, all the background work. And it's interesting because they can do it without having to worry about going to court. There's not going to be a trial.
Because he's deceased.
The person responsible is dead. But they still have to go through all the steps. They still have to conduct this investigation just as if they were preparing it for court, because we need to know what happened, where did he get this gun, was it lawfully obtained, did he have a permit for it, did he get it on the street, where did he get it from on the street, and there's all kinds of questions that need to be answered.
We're also hearing this morning that satchel, and this is a live shot of the scene. This is a different angle of, you can see there's a blue business there. That street where the tape is running horizontally, that is the Danforth. This is one of the side streets, and as our camera is zooming in, you can see there's broken glass. This crime scene is massive, Mark.
It's a large crime scene. They're going to have to account for all of the projectiles, or bullets, as they're often called, and the shell casings. They're going to have to retrace his steps. They're going to have to go through security video from all of the stores in the Danforth, because they want to know where he was before all this happened.
Right.
Where did he park his car? Did he come by public transit? Had he gone to other places and looked in and maybe thought about shooting in there? And if he didn't, then why did he choose this particular location? Is there an intended target? Is there an ex-girlfriend, an ex-wife? All kinds of questions as to why. And we may find out at the end of the day that this was completely random, that maybe there's a mental health issue, and maybe this is why he went off, or something else set him off. He lost his job. Who knows, right? But until they get into his head and get into his computers and the people that know him, we have a lot of unanswered questions.
I want to hold off in just one second talking about the sides of the crime scene, because, as we learned from the SIU a little later this morning, there was an exchange of gunfire between the suspect and police. He then took off on foot and then died. So we'll talk about that in just a second. But, this video that everybody has been watching this morning that is so chilling is of this man walking up, smartly dressed, his clothes fit well, he has his leather satchel, ball cap. This guy here, he plants and he fires. And I think what's so chilling about it is there's no yelling. There doesn't seem to be, at least from what we can see, any erratic behavior. It seems methodical.
Well, it's methodical because he brought a gun to the Danforth, first of all. So this was already a state of mind beginning, this entire scenario. What's also interesting is his comfort level with the gun. I don't know if you've ever shot a gun, but most people who shoot a gun for the first or second time, there's a recoil, there's a kickback, and there's a flinching and a hesitation. He seems to be very comfortable. There's also information out there that he's fired well over 30 shots. So that means he's got clips, magazines. And obviously he's emptied clips and he's dropped them and he's loaded up a new clip again. So he knows what he's doing with the gun. Now, whether he gets that from being a member of a registered gun club, or whether his stance and the way he's holding the gun is something he caught on TV or playing a video game, who knows? But he seems comfortable with the gun in terms of not being worried about recoil. And as you say, it's very cold and chilly. He just walks up to this particular venue, as he did with some others, and just opens fire. And we need to find out why.
Talking about the suspect, so this report that came out from the SIU describes the fact that there was a gunfire back and forth between police and between the suspect, and lots of praise, by the way, for first responders to that scene and for the police that were involved. And then he takes off on foot, and then we learn that he is deceased. So what does that tell us about this exchange?
Well, the SIU and the homicide investigators will both be speaking to all the officers that were involved. I'm sure the SIU are designating now who is a subject officer and who is a witness officer. They'll be interviewed, and they're going to find out if this man said anything to them. Was there any verbal exchange before any of this happened? How many shots did he fire at the police? They'll have to account for all the shots taken by the officers and try and locate those projectiles as well. How did they lose them? Did he just run through a back alley? Did they take cover and he ducked away somewhere and then took his own life? The good thing is that we've got officers who are witnesses to this who are trained observers, and hopefully we'll get some good answers from them.
Well, speaking of eyewitnesses, not only was it a very busy time of night, you have a lot of eyewitnesses, but there's 12 people who've been injured who would have had some sort of an interaction, either known or unknown, with the shooter. There's a lot of people to talk to.
There are a lot of people to talk to. Now, the people that are injured, we don't know. Once a bullet leaves the barrel of that gun, it has no conscience, and it can travel a long distance before it stops. So the people that were shot may have been 50 yards away, or maybe even more. It could be a ricochet off a building or off a doorpost. I mean, we don't know. But those witnesses will all have good information to provide. You got to put a picture together now. Not just a picture of the scene, but a picture of this guy. And you got to go back in time to find out what triggered all of this in his mind. That's something that's going to take a little bit of time.
We know officers have been working throughout the night. They're continuing this morning. And again, we've got about 40 minutes until we hear another update from the mayor. We should find out more then. In the meantime, great to have you with us this morning. Thanks for all your help with our coverage.
Always a pleasure, Emery.
All right, we are going to continue to follow this story throughout the morning. Stay with your morning for the very latest updates. If you are just joining us, there is an update. 2 civilians have died in that mass shooting in Toronto's Greektown around 10 o'clock Eastern last night. A busy time of night there. There is a shooter who is deceased. That investigation is ongoing this morning. No name released. We do know it was a 29-year-old male in hospital this morning. Are 12 shooting victims. Among those is an 8 or 9-year-old girl who is in one of the establishments at the time. Also, a woman was pronounced dead at the scene last night. We will continue to bring you updates as they come into our newsroom this morning. Stay with us here on Your Morning.